Berkeley to be trained to go to Ghana. And all the people in my group went and met Kennedy on the White House lawn, but they sent me home. Didn't send me to Washington to meet Kennedy. Just as glad of that. But one of the problems was, well, first I didn't really want to go to Ghana. I wanted to go to India, and I was about your age. But the second thing was that when the psychiatrists examined us all, don't tell me now, they had the psychiatrist see if we were suitable to go out in the field. What a joke. So here's this guy, he's like smoking away, he's got ashes all over him, and like this, you know. The guy looked like he needed a psychiatrist, you know, and we were sort of all young, idealistic people. So he says to me, throwing people, here's what I'm bringing this up. Do you hear voices? And I said, uh-oh. I know the right answer to this one. I'm supposed to say no. So I said yes. I could see him writing, oh, he was thrilled. I could see him writing down, you know, here's voices, here's voices. You know. When you go in for these interviews, you be careful. Don't say what you're not supposed to say. You know what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say you don't hear voices, okay? And if you hear voices, you're on your way home to New Jersey or someplace while the others go to the White House lawn. I saw him writing, here's voices, you know. And so I was a dead man after that in this program. But anyway, I just tell you that story because of this hearing voices. So I think a lot of people hear voices. Everyone thinks God is speaking to them, doesn't it? Someone's speaking often. But the question is, how young are you when you hear these voices? And then also, when do you stop listening to them? So I know my wife is still listening to the voices, and they get me frightened, actually, some of the voices she's hearing. But, you know, I mean, I think she's right out of a druid subculture of some kind. Because she's always making prophecies about the future that frighten the heck out of me, you know. But you people probably know people like this in your own family or yourself. So a lot of people hear voices. But did you hear voices when you were 5 years old? How many have heard you? He keeps saying no. This guy keeps saying no. How many have heard voices when they're 5? We're not going to hold it. I'm not going to take your name down. I'm not going to give you to the CIA. You've heard voices when you've heard voices. You know, it's hard to remember what I heard when I was 5. But weird things can happen to you when you're 5 years old. My wife says she can't remember anything when she was 5, but I can remember some things when I was 5. My memory goes back to around the time when I was, I think, about 3. What about you guys? You guys, how far do you guys go back? 3? 3. About 3. So the things seemed pretty funny back then in your mind, you know, what you remember. And there may have been some voices floating around. So what am I saying? Do we believe Black Elk here? Yeah, I believe that he believes that he heard voices when he was 5. That's why I did that, just to illustrate that. Is he believable? So do you believe him? Yeah, I believe him. Do you?
Sure.
Okay, we agree that he's telling the truth here. We agree, he heard voices. So he first started hearing them when he was 5. And this happened to me more than once, and it made me frightened. And particularly if you live in a society that hearing voices is an acceptable thing, then that's fun. So I was 5 years old, my grandfather gave me some bows and arrows, and I was on horseback, and a thunderstorm was coming, and the sun was going down. And I was riding into the woods along a creek, and the kingbird was sitting on a limb. This is a great one, too. It was not a dream, this really happened. He's 5 years old, he's on a horse, he's got the bows and arrows his grandfather gave him. He's living a good life, don't you think? I guess a lot of us wish we had a grandfather that gave us bows and arrows on a horse when we were 5, and we'd be riding out there on the plains near some tree. Wouldn't you like that? This guy is really great. I mean, he's a lot of fun. And I was going to shoot the kingbird with the bow my grandfather made when the bird spoke. Uh-oh, we're getting the spirit bird of Carlos Castaneda here, right? The clouds all over are one-sided, it said. Whoa, my God. Perhaps it meant that all the clouds were looking at me, and then it said, listen, a voice is calling you. And then I looked up at the clouds, and 2 men were coming, head first like arrows slanting down, and they were coming, and they sang a sacred song, and the thunder was drumming, and I'll sing it for you, and he knows the song. And the drumming, behold, a sacred voice is calling you. All over the sky, a sacred voice is calling. And I sat there gazing at them, and they were coming from the place where the giants lived, in the north, that is. And they were very close to me, and they wheeled about toward where the sun goes down, and suddenly I saw they were all geese. And they were gone. And the rain came with a big wind and a roaring. And that was his vision. What do you think? Do you have that vision when he was 5 years old?